namaste. How's it going? How are you? So, today I want to talk about assumptions as overlays of limiting or false beliefs and the recognition, realization, or insight that often we have assumptions about reality that aren't true. And those assumptions are things that we tend to just be like, oh yeah, so and so did that, no big deal, or oh well, things are just like that, and that's how it is, or um, things that we don't, oftentimes when we're dealing with really serious or deep or painful stuff, we go right to the root, or we look into the root of the issue, and we find these limiting beliefs. And I'm amazed really at how we can adopt just aspects of practices. So we can adopt just a movement practice in yoga and enjoy the physical benefits. We can adopt a mindfulness practice and enjoy the mental benefits. And to me, really what's integral to true transformation is the totality of embodying all of these practices, or all of the key tenets of these practices. So for me, as I go deeper, I accept and realize that there is a dissolving of all assumptions. I no longer hold people to where I assume them to be. I no longer wouldn't make assumptions about group dynamic, wouldn't make assumptions about where, like, what direction something is moving in. And I think sometimes our mind goes way out ahead of us, and along that tangent then inserts different assumptions about how everything is going to go. You could also call that attachment to outcome or expectation. And so we make an assumption, and oftentimes it's a negative one. We assume the worst. And that's a really common thread. We assume the worst, and then that makes us feel bad. And as we know, we've talked about this before, feeling good is alignment. Feeling positive, feeling expansive, feeling blissful, feeling abundant, loving. These things are true to our inherent spark, our inherent aliveness, and it's a reclaiming of that inherent aliveness of joy that we're choosing to create, rather than an inherent assumption that life is shitty and hard and that's as good as it gets. So recognize assumptions can also be invisible to us. We are so covered up. There's so many multiple layers of how we're distracted by our external reality. And we don't realize that some of the stuff we're looking at are mere assumptions. If we stop assuming that so-and-so is going to behave a certain way, we can often change how we perceive their behavior. If we stop assuming always the worst about a situation, we might just surprise ourselves and see it differently. And I'm not talking about necessarily getting what we want from something or someone, but I mean that we can lighten up around a situation once we realize that an assumption is just an assumption and it's not hard truth. And as I say that, I'm thinking, and that is the ultimate recognition. Nothing that we're living right now is hard truth. It's an experience, and if we choose, there can be a lightness around the ever-changing circumstantial evidence of our own reality. So it really is about fundamentally understanding the emotional guidance system. Why is it important and what is it? And then from that place, prioritizing your own self-care, you could say, or prioritizing your own feel-good state, your own excitement, your own joy, your own bliss, your own happiness. And the thing is, what I'm realizing is that as I choose to be in my integrity, certain things will kind of bounce off my bubble, and I might think, oh. And what I realize is that's just like an ironing out of the kinks, and also birthing like new ideas as well. So even coming across other people's assumptions about their role or your role or what something is just their assumptions. Whether I choose to take it personal that there was a miscommunication or a false assumption, whether I choose to take that personally, that's my choice, and I don't have to. And for somebody, you could say, who's been like kind of sensitive and like victimized and oh poor me and all that kind of stuff for a long time, I would consider that a real breakthrough when I can finally just almost receive an attack vibe from somebody and just kind of brush it off and say that's okay, and I can still honor that person. But no matter how nice that person is, or no matter how deeply connected I feel to that person, if they're behaving or acting in a way that doesn't feel good to me, I have a choice in that moment to honor their assumption or honor their vibration instead of my own. And that's what it comes back to, is always saying, no, I'm going to honor my vibration. I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to trust my flow, and expect that if there are assumptions, false beliefs that come to trigger myself or others, that we can hold ourselves with clarity and light and assume to rise above those conditions. And that's something for me that's very important as I move forward in time, as I move forward through this timeline, is that I become more clear. I trust my own visions. I trust my own connection to my own self beyond everything and everyone else. And that's coming from unconditional love, where I know there's a huge amount of compassion, but if we're feeding other people's false beliefs through what we think is compassion, by like, oh, you poor thing, I care about you so much, again, we're not actually serving the totality through this lift of vibration. At some point, for some of us on the quote-unquote spiritual path, we have to let go of all conditions completely. We want to be able to let go of all physical conditions, assumptions, things we think are real. Let go of them, drop them completely, and step into your truth, your authenticity, so that it's like almost having a world just with gods walking around, a world with totally sovereign, independent, and unconditionally loving, beautifully and powerfully creative beings. And that those who are choosing to sort of hang out in lower densities or lower frequencies, that's always accessible to us. We always have a choice. So there's no right or wrong, no good or bad, which really is an idea of vibrationally, mentally, emotionally rising above duality, or merging the duality so that you're not affected by the extremes or the contrast. And harmonizing everything so that other people can more easily shift into higher densities if they choose. And again, from this place, it's a total unconditional acceptance of everything and everyone. So it really doesn't matter what people are doing, but you know that your own alignment for a certain purpose, your alignment is integral to this lifetime to usher and assist and help awaken other people's minds to their own inherent divinity, so that more and more people can be walking around in alignment. And of course, that's going to create a really awesome place to be. So I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you have a gorgeous day. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste. Take care.
All to love. All to love.